So it's very unusual to have such a low clinical repeat revascularization rate. Siggy, do you have? I mean, it's only 57 patients, but still, it's very low.
So saying to that, so I was impressed with the low long-term mortality, 7%. I was impressed by the low rate of the target lesion vascularization, and I was impressed also by preserved LV function and no negative remodeling.
This was also my comment. I mean, you could see it on both sides. First of all, it could say that restenosis is really not the problem of patients with acute coronary syndrome. The problem is thrombus, and we all know this. You could also be provocative. Let me try to be provocative. Maybe those patients had already, because this was clinical restenosis, they did not get angina, so there was no reason to cath them again. You could be provocative and say, well, maybe the PCI came too late, so it was already infarcted, and this is why they did not experience their angina again, because it was dead. What was the average time between chest pain onset and PCI?
So first, going to that it could be just, let's say that all arteries were occluded after the stenting and we don't see any angina. So that's why I wanted to check the LV function and LV diameter. So if the artery were occluded, so the LV would be, deteriorated, and the enlargement of the LV and the ejection fraction should go down.
I'm trying to understand how would the stent works differently from a distal protection device. So if you think distal protection device did not work well in acute MI, how would the stent works? How would you explain that?
So I think that the simple way is to say that this procedure is just faster and simple.
With these devices, you need a landing zone far behind the lesion, and many patients with STEMI don't have a landing zone behind the occlusion.
Yeah, I think also distal protection devices are relatively inefficient in actually capturing all of the embolic material. And there are other things released from the lesion that, in fact, are not even solid. There are vasoactive substances that can induce no reflow and other things. So by trapping everything so that nothing goes downstream, so you try to eliminate most of the embolic phenomenon, I think it has a much more profound effect than just having a filter.
Can I add to this? Because, the difference which you asked, I think conceptually, distal protection is a thrombus protection device, and this is actually a thrombus exclusion device also. So it excludes the thrombus on the side of the vessel. So neither it comes inside the distal in the lumen, nor it gets into the...
So it's
and I would argue that, that when you finish, whether you use a bare metal stent or a drug-eluting stent, you're still leaving a lot of thrombus behind. And you're leaving thrombus behind that's vulnerable, that can fragment and microembolize over a period of time after you've removed the distal protection device. By permanently excluding or displacing it, I think that may have a more significant effect.
So what do you think the covered stent, the regular covered stent, completely covered, will work well in acute MI then?
No, there are works on it. You have to remember that, first of all, you induce much more damage and restenosis. Secondly, there is a lot of vasovasorum, and we do know that you have a lot of small arteries that you occlude, and you kind of damage the arteries. And we have quite experience before with all the covered stent that the vessel doesn't breathe, so to say, and you damage the vasovasorum. So in this way, we do believe that you get and maintain a healthy way for the endothelium to heal much quicker.
Plus you occlude possible side branches, and even if they're smaller side branches, they are lost forever with a covered stent. So I would never, some people call the MGuard the covered stent, but that's wrong. I would definitively
And the major concern with covered stent was stent thrombosis, so which probably we don't see here.
So this is not a covered
stent thrombosis, increased restenosis, side branch occlusion. I think it's a very different device. Side branches remain patent. It's a very different device.